Welcome to Eureka Math. I'm Mr. Shankel. Going to be helping you today with Module 4, Lesson 21. Let's get started. Let a line L be given in the coordinate plane. What linear equation is the graph of line L? Okay, so we have to write a linear equation. Well, not a problem if we know where it crosses the y-axis, but look, I just can't say with any certainty what that is. Is it 2 2/3? Is it 2 3/5? I just don't really know, so I can't actually say what the y-intercept is at this point. But I do know some other things. So let's start with what we do know. We do know that this is a point on the line. That's crossing an intersection, and we do know that that is a point on the line. So that's crossing an intersection. So we do have 2 points, and let's use those. So first, this first point in the second quadrant, that's a -2, +2. -2, +2. And the second point is in the first quadrant is a +5, +4. So this is the point 5, 4. All right, so we have those 2 points. What we can do is calculate slope. If you'll remember, slope is equal to the change in y, which we can write as one of the y's minus the other y's, over one of the x's minus the other x, x2 and x1. And let's just label these. Let's call this this is x1 and this one's y1, and then we'll say that this is x2 and this is y2, and then we'll substitute those values into our equation and solve for the slope. So let's do that. So slope is equal to, my y2 is here, that's a 2, minus the y1 is there, that's a 4, so 2 minus 4, over x2, the x2 is this one, so that's a -2, minus the x1 is a 5, so that goes here. And then we can calculate this. We can say that 2 minus 4 is a -2, and -2 and a -5 put together is a -7, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this is m equals 2/7. So at least we know the slope. We know the slope is 2/7. And then we do know the equation of a line is y equals the slope. I know that, 2/7 x plus b, and that's what it's going to look like. If I only knew what b was, I would be in good shape, but I don't yet. But I do know this. I do know that I do know the x and the y values just from our ordered pairs. So if I take that ordered pair, I could say that x is 5, so I could, and y is 4. So instead of y, I could put a 4, substitute a 4 for y, is equal to 2/7 times x. Well, x is 5, and then plus b. And then I can just simplify and solve for b. So let's do that. 2/7 times 5 is 5/7, so we get 4 is equal to 5/7 plus b. And then in order to isolate the b, I can just subtract 5/7 from both sides. Subtract 5/7, and let's see, that cancels. I get b is equal to 4 minus 5/7. Well, I'm going to change the 4 into something over 7. So that would be 28/7. All right, 4 over 1, I'd have to multiply by 7 over 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Over 7 times 1 is 7. So 28/7 minus 5/7 gives me 23/7. And that is the y-intercept. So now I have everything I need. I have my slope and I have my y-intercept. Slope I have here, the y-intercept I have here, and I can just write this equation. Y equals m, well that's 2/7 x, plus the y-intercept is 23/7. And that is the equation of this line. All right, so we're using the points to calculate slope, and then we're using that one of those ordered pairs to plug into our slope-intercept form of the equation and solve for y-intercept. Once I have the slope and the y-intercept, I can write the equation. Let's try that again. Let's see, I've got a point here. That's the point -1, 4. -1, 4. And I have, let's see, I have another point that crosses an intersection there. That's the point 4, 1. That's the point 4, 1. So there's my 2 points, and I can calculate slope. Let's do that first. Slope is equal to, I like to label these first so that I don't get confused. I'm going to call this x1, and this one's y1. This one will be x2, and this will be y2. And that way I can make sure that when I put my numbers into this equation, I don't mix them up. So it's y2, that's a 4, minus whatever y1 is, that's a 1. So there's my numerator. Over x2, that's a -1, minus whatever x1 is, and that's 4. All right, and then simplifying, I get 4 minus 1 is a 3. Over -1 and -4 is a -5. So I get -3/5 is the slope. Okay, so now I'm going to use my slope-intercept form. Y equals m, well, I know m now is -3/5, times x plus b. Y equals mx plus b. And then I'm going to substitute what I know the values of x and y are. And I can use either one of these ordered pairs. Either one, I think, I don't know, I think I'm going to use this one right here, because if I multiply a -3/5 times a -1, I'm going to get a positive number, and I kind of like positive numbers. So y is 4 is equal to -3/5 times x, well, that's a -1, plus b. And then we simplify. -3/5 times 1 is a +3/5, so this is 3/5 plus b is equal to 4. And then we're going to subtract 3/5 from both sides. And when we do that, we get b on the right side is equal to 4 minus 3/5. Well, I'm going to change 4 into something over 5. That would be 20/5. So this would be 20/5 minus 3/5, and that is 17/5. That's my y-intercept. That's where this line is going to cross the y-axis. So now I can write my equation, and it's y equals, whatever my slope is, well, my slope we found was -3/5, times x, plus whatever the y-intercept is, and we found that to be 17/5. So there's my equation for that line. Okay, 17/5, if I change that to a mixed number, that would be 3 2/5. And if we look at the where it crosses the y-axis, it looks like that's about right, 3 2/5. All right, let's do another one. Let's see, I've got a point here. That is the point, let's see, that's 13 and something. Looks like we're just going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 13/7. And then I have another point, looks like right here. Here, there we go. And that's the point 12, 2. 12, 2. So there's my 2 points that I can use to calculate slope. Notice we don't even see the y-intercept on here, so there's no way to say what the y-intercept is until I calculate it. So let's do that. Slope is equal to, I want to label these. Let's go x1, y1, and this will be x2, y2. So I'm going to do y2, 7, minus y1 is a 2, over x2, that's 13, minus x1 is 12. And 7 minus 2 is 5, over 13 minus 12 is 1, so the slope is 5. Slope is 5. And then I can plug that into my equation. Let me just write that again. Y equals m, that's 5, times x plus b. And let's substitute some values for y and x. I can use either one of these ordered pairs. So I'll choose that one. Y is 2 is equal to 5 times x is 12, and then plus b. And then I can simplify, so 2 equals 5 times 12 is 60 plus b. And then I can subtract 60 from both sides. And that gives me b is equal to 2 minus 60 is a negative 58. So this line crosses the y-axis at negative 58. No wonder we couldn't see it on the graph. And then my equation. Well, my equation is y equals m, I found that was 5 times x plus b, and that was negative 58. So I'm going to change that from a plus to a minus 58. Y equals 5x minus 58. All right, example 4. Well, this one I can see the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right there. So all I need is the slope. Y equals something times x plus the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept, it crosses the y-axis at 0. So I can plug that in already. And then I can just use the graph on this one to go from that point to this point. I have to go up 1 and right 3. Up 1 and right 3, that's a 1/3. So y equals 1/3 x plus 0, and then I really don't need that 0, so y equals 1/3 x. That's the equation for that line. All right, let's get into the exercises. Number 1. Can't tell on that y-intercept, so I'm going to have to use the points. There's a point, that's the point -1, -3. -1, -3. And I need another point. Looks like that is a point. And that is the point 2, -2. 2, -2. Okay, there's my 2 points. I'm going to use slope formula. The slope is equal to, let me name these, x1, y1, x2, y2. That way I know what I'm talking about. Y2 is -2. Minus y1 is -3, so minus a -3, over x2 is a 2, minus x1 is a -1, so -1. And then I need to interpret this a little bit. The opposite of -3 is a +3, so that's -2 and a +3, that's a 1. And then the opposite of -1, that's a +1, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So the slope is 1/3. Y equals 1/3 times x plus b. I just need this b. So I'm going to plug in some values for x and y so that I can calculate the y-intercept. So I'm going to use that point. Y is a -3. -3 is equal to 1/3 times x is a -1 plus b. And -1 times 1/3 is a -1/3, so this is -3 is equal to a -1/3 plus b. And then I'm going to isolate b, so I'm going to add 1/3 to both sides, add 1/3, and the 1/3s cancel. I get b is equal to, and now I just need to add 1/3. So I'm going to make this -3 over 1 into thirds. That means I'd have to multiply by 3 over 3. That's a -9 thirds. Okay, so I have a -9 thirds and a +1/3. That's going to give me a -8 thirds, and that's my y-intercept. And now I can write the equation. Y equals the slope is 1/3 times x plus the y-intercept is -8 thirds. So I'm going to make that a -8 thirds. And that's the line of the equation of that line. All right, next. Starting to get the hang of this, hopefully. There's a point that crosses an intersection. There's another one. The first one is at -8, +6, so -8, comma 6. And the second one is at -3, 7, -3, comma 7. So there are my 2 points. I'm going to use those 2 points to calculate slope. Slope is equal to, well, in order to do this, I want to know which one's x1 and y1. So let's go x1, y1, that's this point, and the second x and the second y are over here. So now we're going to say y2, that's a 7, minus y1, that's a 6, over x2, that's a -3, minus x1, that's a -8. And then simplify. 7 minus 6 is 1, that's my numerator. And then this is the opposite of -8 is a +8. So I have a -3 and a +8, that's a +5. My slope is 1/5. So y equals the slope 1/5 times x plus b, and I need to calculate b again. So I'm going to use one of my points. Doesn't matter which one. Let me use this one this time. Y is 7 is equal to 1/5 times x, which is -3, plus b, I don't know. And now I can multiply. 7 equals 1/5 times -3 is a -3/5 plus b. And then I just add 3/5 to both sides. Add 3/5. And these cancel. I get b is equal to 7 plus 3/5. Well, I could just say 7 and 3/5. That would be a good answer. I kind of like the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply the 7 by 5/5 so that I get fifths, and that gives me 35 fifths. 35 fifths plus 3/5 is 38 fifths. And that's my answer for my y-intercept. So now I can write the equation y equals the slope 1/5 times x plus the y-intercept is 38 fifths. And there's the equation for that line. Okay, next. Determine the equation of the line that goes through points -4, 5 and 2, 3. Well, I don't have a graph this time, but that doesn't change anything. I need to find slope. x1, y1. This one's x2, y2. And I'm going to use my slope formula to figure out what the slope is. So y2 is a 3, minus y1, that's 5, over x2 is a 2, minus x1 is a -4. And when I simplify this, 3 minus 5 is a -2, over the opposite of -4 is a +4, so 2 plus 4 is 6. -2/6, which I can simplify to be -1/3. So the slope is -1/3. If I were to write the equation, it would be y equals the slope -1/3 times x plus b, and I don't know that y-intercept yet, so I'm going to plug one of these points in so that I get my y-intercept. So I'm going to use that one. Could use either one. Y is 5 is equal to 1/3 times x is -4 plus b. 5 is equal to 1/3 times -4 is a -4/3 plus b. And then I just need to add 4/3 to both sides. Add 4/3. The 4/3 on the right side cancel. I get b is equal to 5 plus 4/3. Well, I'm going to change this 5 into thirds. That means I have to multiply by 3/3. That gives me 15/3. So 15/3 and 4/3 is 19/3. That's my y-intercept. And now I can write the equation y equals the slope -1/3. That's from here. Times x plus the y-intercept is 19/3. And that's the equation for that line. Even though we can't see it, I can calculate the equation using 2 points. Okay, let's do another one. We get a graph back. We're definitely not crossing the y-axis here that I can see, so I'm going to use this point. That's the point -6, -2. And this point crosses at an intersection. That's the point -7, +2. So there's my 2 points. I know I'm going to have to label these, so I'm going to do that right now. Let's call this x1, y1. We'll call this one x2, y2, and then we'll use our slope formula. Slope is equal to y2, that's a -2, minus y1, that's a +2, over x2, that's a -6, minus x1, that's a -7, and simplify. -2 and -2 is a -4, over, well, this means the opposite of -7 is a +7, and -6 and +7 is a +1. So the slope is -4. Slope equals -4. Now I could write my slope-intercept form. Y equals the slope -4 times x plus b, and I don't have b, so I need to plug some points in, substitute, so that I can solve for my y-intercept. So let's use, I don't know, let's use that one. That one looks good. Y is 2 is equal to -4 times x, which is -7, plus b. And then I can simplify. 2 is equal to -4 times -7 is a +28 plus b. And then I can subtract 28 from both sides. And that will be my slope. The slope is equal to 2 minus 28 is a -26. So that's my slope. My y-intercept. Now I can write the equation. Y equals the slope, -4, times x, plus the y-intercept, well, that's a -26. Y equals -4x minus 26 is the equation for that line. Okay, next one. A line goes through the point 8, 3 and has a slope of 4. Well, they did some work for us. We don't have to calculate the slope this time. We just need to use my y equals mx plus b equation, that slope-intercept form, substitute what we know, and then solve for the y-intercept. So let's plug a 3 in for y. Slope, they told us, was 4. The x value is an 8, so that's 4 times 8, and then plus b, we don't know. And then we can simplify. 3 equals 4 times 8 is 32 plus b, and then subtract 32 from both sides. And we get the y-intercept is equal to 3 minus 32. That is a -29. So then I can write the equation. Y equals the slope 4 times x minus the y-intercept. That's 29. Y equals 4x minus 29. Okay, and so that's all the exercises. And just so you have them, these are your equations. And we use this on almost every equation, that slope formula. The next one, we haven't talked about yet. It's the point-slope form of the line. And the point-slope form of the line is just, it's just the same equation as the slope formula, except we manipulated it. We changed it so that it looks a little different. And it can also be used to write the equation of the line. We'll worry about that a little later. But mainly these two. You need to know that slope formula, how to figure out what slope is. If you're given 2 points, can you find the slope of the line? And then we use the slope-intercept form. So these two definitely are going to be needed for your upcoming test. All right, that's lesson 21. I hope that helps. See you again next time.